As you know, Republicans now have the responsibility for oversight in the House of Representatives. In fact, we've interviewed right here on this program the chairman of that oversight committee, Representative James Comer. He's doing a good job. They've got a lot to do. And they've also got a bit of an assist now from our friends at the Heritage Foundation. They've just launched something called the Oversight Project. What are they going to do? Let's bring in the director, Mike Howell, who's running the Oversight Project. Mike, thanks for joining us.
Hey, thanks for having me.
So what does the Oversight Project do exactly at the Heritage Foundation?
Well, primarily we sue the pants off the Biden administration. I mean, we're in 20 actions right now. That number is going to grow exponentially. But the basic theory is this. This is the most obstructive administration in history. There's the most corruption. I think this is a peak moment of American corruption. Congress needs some help. They need people to get into federal court and fight for the same documents that they're fighting for. As a Trump administration alum myself, I knew that we had to fight on multiple fronts, whether it was Capitol Hill, the media, or in federal court for this kind of stuff. And so we're trying to get some air cover and going out and getting documents, and that's exactly what we're doing. I mean, most recently, we just got some docs out of the FBI that show a complete weaponization of the department in terms of how they absolutely surged man hours towards nonviolent January 6th trespassers, while they didn't do a thing and lift a thing for the riots that ravaged this country in 2020 by the hands of Black Lives Matter.
That's exactly the kind of thing that I would hope that reporters would be looking at. That people who claim to hold the feet of the government's the government's feet to the fire would actually be doing, but they're not, are they? I think most Americans assume that if there's any story there, reporters are doing these FOIA requests and they're getting to the bottom of it.
Yeah, that's just not happening. I mean, regime media is in the tank. They're pushing the opposite narrative. In fact, I think one of the reasons why we had to stand this up is because the media has largely fallen down on this. There's not a lot in the way of FOIA litigation happening from legacy media these days. What we've seen in the industry is a complete reliance on, human sources and anonymous sources and their preferred, deep state information handlers. And they aren't adverse to the administrative state. And so that's why the Heritage Foundation has to step in and fill this void and actually fight for the information that not only is the media not fighting for, but they're otherwise disinterested in because it goes against the narrative that gets them clicks and outrage against, big bad Trump orange man.
You mentioned the double standard there with the FBI with regard to basically not doing much at all after the 2020 Black Lives Matter riots that saw, fires and destruction and looting in every major city in America, versus how they've dealt with January 6th. There's another glaring example of this double standard that's happening right now every day, and that has to do with the pro-life pregnancy centers that have been attacked by Antifa. I mean, there's dozens and dozens of them. They've been burned, they've been looted, they've been windows broken, vandalized with spray paint, threats made. Seems like the FBI isn't doing anything about that. Are you able to pull on those threats?
Yeah, we absolutely are. We're in federal court suing for information right now on it. I mean, it's very obvious. The conclusion's already out there. The FBI and DOJ aren't lifting a finger as, the pro-life community and the Christian community is under attack. In fact, we've seen documents come out of the FBI where they're labeling Catholic organizations as, right-wing extremists. So one could say that our government is on the side of those, who are attacking these communities. So the conclusion's already there. Nothing else needs to be proven with regards to weaponization. But what we're getting at in our investigation is who particularly and specifically is responsible for this. I think those people need to be exposed because they're the ones who are, sitting there in the government with the power to do something, and they're not. I also want to know who's weighing in outside the government. This is an administration that is beholden to wacko far left groups, and I want to know who's really calling the shots. I got some theories, but I'd like to see it on paper.
I also saw that you've got some requests in, this is at the Heritage Foundation Oversight Project, against our favorite balding, ginger, pasty-skinned former member of royalty who really hates America and hates liberty and hates his own family. Of course, I'm talking about Prince Harry, who I don't think is actually a prince anymore. Why are you looking after Prince Harry? What did Prince Harry do? He's not even American.
Right. Well, I think he abused our immigration system, and I think that he was let in when he probably shouldn't have been. I mean, he wrote in his memoir he was a prolific drug user, and that should have been a bar for, his immigration. And so I want to see whether the federal government gave him a pass because he's such a VIP Netflix superstar. And so we're asking for his immigration file. keep in mind, this is in the context of a complete invasion of our border that's happening right now with over 5 million illegal aliens. I think it's at 6 now, who've stormed across at Biden's invitation. So the fact that not only are we rolling out the red carpet for everyone in the world to come, we're basically looking the other way when it comes to, these British royalty rabble rousers. And so I think Prince Harry needs to go home. I think he's worn out his welcome here. You don't have to go back to England if you don't want, but you can't stay here, is my view.
Well, I think to get into the country, he checked that special box that says FOO, Friend of Oprah. Doesn't that carry a lot of weight with our Department of Homeland Security?
Front of the line, man.
What else should we be looking for from the Oversight Project here? I kind of like where you're going. And also, are you working, not hand in hand, but it sounds like you're sort of tracking along with the Oversight Committee work in the House.
Right. So very often you'll see a request go out from Capitol Hill asking for documents. Usually those are the same subject matter interest as us. And so what we do is we make a request in a different channel, which is, the Freedom of Information Act, and then get into federal court on the same subject matter in a couple months. And so this creates a little difficulty for the deep state in that there's 2 tracks now of information potentially going out, and we're in federal court, and whereas Congress is in, more political constitutional process. And so that's a big line of business that we have here. Of course, a lot of what we do is based off of independently gathered, leads and sources, and we're hunting those down and putting them up on a silver platter for, members that are interested in oversight. We view ourselves as an information gatherer to further what I think is the most important oversight period in our country's history. We have never seen this much failure. We have never seen this much corruption. Zero oversight happened the first 2 years of this administration. The Democrats, frankly, weren't interested in it. Yeah. They were part of the cover-up. And so we got to do 4 years worth of work in 2. So that's why we're working overtime.
I'm sure you're going to hit brick walls on national security excuses, but I'd love to see some oversight on the pullout of Afghanistan, who advised the president of what, and what the timeline was at that. But I do want to ask you this, Mike, because I know a lot of people will be watching and says, oh, there goes those conservatives. The Republicans are just going to bog the White House down with all this paperwork and all these FOIA requests, and they're mucking up the works. You said you worked in the Trump administration. If I remember right, the Trump administration was inundated with this kind of thing, like an avalanche of this stuff.
Yep, we absolutely were. I mean, every day was a different media, congressional, or, outside group generated controversy. They had this country living in a state of permanent, outrage. And I think that really, at the end of the day, hurt the Trump administration's ability to get things done. I mean, the first 2 years of the administration, the left and the deep state convinced a large amount of this country that, there was some Russian collusion occurring. And that took the, air out of the sails, the wind out of the sails for a lot of legitimate efforts that the American people, voted for change in the United States. And so I don't want to hear the left complaining about our legitimate and legal requests for information when they basically all got in line and behind a conspiracy theory for completely illegitimate purposes.
Yeah, to be fair, frankly, conservatives are just sort of catching up on this thing. The left has mastered this, and they've been doing it for decades. It didn't start just with the Trump administration. So it's good to see that we're jumping on board. Any final thoughts here, Mike Howell, especially if people want to support this project?
Yeah, I appreciate that. We just launched a Twitter account at Heritage PR. That's for Project. And we're going to be dumping docs. A lot of the things that we're getting are thousands of pages. So we're going to crowdsource this a little bit. We're in a David versus Goliath fight. And we think some of the smartest people who can connect the dots aren't sitting in this building I work at. They're throughout the country. So come be a part of the fight. We're going to be dropping docs. We'd love your help.
Okay, and just to be clear here, I want to correct it. You said Heritage PR. I think you meant Oversight PR, right?
I'm sorry. Yes, sir. Oversight PR. It's a 24-hour-old account, so I'm still getting it straight.
No, it's all right. It's all right. I just want to make sure we get it proper there as well. And listen, the big boss there, the president of Heritage Foundation, Kevin Roberts, was on this program the first week we existed, and he said it's not your father's Heritage Foundation anymore. I think you're kind of proving it. You guys are rather robust and aggressive. I like that.
I appreciate it. We're just trying to keep up with Dr. Roberts.
All right. And by the way, when you get some, exclusive FOIA documents and you want to put it on a big platform, let's get a little.
I got you.
Thank you, Mike. Thanks for joining us. There's more to come. Keep it here on O'Connor Tonight. You are watching Salem News Channel.